All right, well, welcome to another Real Talk Tuesdays live web show. My name is Justin Messina, along with Mr. Rob Shepard. How are you doing tonight, Rob?
I'm doing outstanding. How are you, man?
Good. So awesome, awesome night, awesome topic. Tonight, just to set up the show a little bit, we've got the hashtag RTT Live for live tweets at Twitter. So live interaction and post-show interaction as well using that hashtag. Um, we do these hangouts every Tuesday night. A lot of lifestyle topics filter into the business side as well. And tonight I feel like we have a merging of the two. And we're talking all about um, how to embrace your story, and getting that down as a business person can be tricky because you might have different markets, you might have different stories that you want to utilize, things you've been through. So we're going to go over that, and it's going to filter back into life, back into business. It's really an overlapping sort of topic. So let's jump right into it. So how I want to kind of kick off this topic is I want to talk a little bit about is the impact that you're going to make as you go through your journey, whatever it is that you're going through or you've gone through, whatever it is that you can help people with is because you've overcame something. You've gone through something in your life, and you can now help other people doing that. So there's not a lot of power in something that you've always been. Like, say you were brought up as an athlete and you've always been an athlete. You probably can't help people get fit as well as someone who's had that struggle and gone through it. So what is it that you've developed on through your life? What's true to you, and creating that story. So what the part about this that's so key is that as you as you are on the journey, even if you haven't got to a place where you feel like you're like an expert, or you've totally come out on the other end and you feel like you can completely help like a wide range of people at a very high level in whatever it is. Um, I'm gonna hold off to the examples till a little later in the show, but just realize that it's a journey, and even if you're in the middle of the journey, if you can hold that belief, like I'm going to this is going to be a legendary type of journey, and I'm going to get on the other side, and one day I'm going to help a ton of people, but not waiting for one day, because right now there's people that are looking for what you know. They're looking for your experience in a multitude of areas, things that might feel second nature to you, but there are always people that you can basically slingshot past you or bring up to where you're at in any particular place in life. So I wanted to kick off that just key concept of just understanding that you have an impact to be made, and where you're at right now is is enough, and you're not just in a struggle. If if you feel that way, you're not just in a struggle. You're already at a place where you could really help out a lot of people, and it just takes the mindset to start to realize that. So as we go through the show, we're no doubt we're going to go through some things about how to do a little discussion on what makes up your story, how to utilize your story, and things like that. And I came armed with some points because I know Rob Shepard's going to have the points down. So Rob, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought this was an awesome topic because sometimes when we don't know how important our story is and how impactful our story can be to the universe and how to the people around us. So when I started thinking about this topic, I was saying to myself, I remember, back in the days when I was younger and how sick I used to get and how my health was just pretty much, I would say, not in great shape, even though it wasn't nothing that was more traumatic at that point in time. But I know eventually it would develop to be more traumatic. Like as far as I used to get like colds all the time, struggle with asthma, struggle with bronchitis, and to realize that now once I put my story together and understand how to utilize my story now to reach out to the world and how to help others to impact their life with my story. And we have to take a look at what goes on with our in our lives, because wisdom is more powerful and key than knowledge. They both are powerful, but I would say wisdom, when you're utilizing wisdom from adding your story and experiences, it's more powerful to me than knowledge. That's just my opinion on that side of it. So that's why your story is important. So I don't want to drag it too long on because I want Justin to jump in. But the reason why, when you're taking a look at writing your story, like for instance, if you're writing about me, sometimes we try to get carried away and the about me becomes so professional that it's very difficult for people to connect with you because it's being read as more of you're just such a guru, you're outstanding, you're great, you're awesome. But if we just let it be our story, it's a lot easier for people to connect with you from your story. And I know, so, I know many of you probably read some bios or read someone's about me, and you says, "Whoa, oh my gosh, that person is really talking about me," because it's not like their story is, okay, I have a BA in bachelor's, I have a PhD, I have my master's degree, and I'm just this, and I'm just that, I'm just great, I'm just so awesome, I'm just this, and then I can't connect with that because you're looking at your story as a way of making an impact by being true. That's the impact we can make out to the universe. So that's just a little bit of elaboration on the topic.
Yeah, those are good points, especially the whole, trying to be professional and having a thought, which I think is somewhat natural for us to do as entrepreneurs or coaches, and to really try to nail down what is my niche and how do I speak to people and how do I be in a professional way. And a lot of times that really undermines your story, right? Like you can forget what it really means to you and start to take on a persona that's not even you. And the power in your story is to really embrace all that happened along the way. Even if you're not like, if you feel like you're right and you're still trying to overcome something, because a lot of times the challenge you have in your life is something that's an ongoing thing that you take strides, and it doesn't necessarily click right away where you just 100% you go through your challenge, but it can be an ongoing thing where you're always fighting it, and especially things with nutrition and different all kinds of different disorders and things out there. So yeah, right in the same train of thought, I feel like if you can embrace the daily actions as you know you touched on it, Rob, like who you can impact. You're obviously impacting yourself. You're obviously, if you can focus on what am I doing today that's going to help me move forward, and where am I going to get to months and a year down the road, and then who are the people that are going to be much more better off through my hard work and my determination to get through this. So is you could stack up as many people, as many positive things that are going to come as a result of you overcoming. And that word I'm going to kind of keep saying throughout this hangout is overcoming, because that is really what it's about. And the more people that you are, there's this concept of keeping a promise to somebody is much more powerful than keeping a promise to yourself. As human beings, we're just naturally more tied to promises we make to other people. If we make a promise to ourselves, there's no immediate consequence, right? But if we let someone else down, we take it on emotionally. And so with that said, like the more sort of skin in the game is one of the terms for this, is the more leverage you can put on yourself, the more promises that you have to keep to other people. And it doesn't have to be a verbal promise you make to somebody, but you could write it down and let it inspire you. Like, what's going to happen when I figure this out? I'm going to be able to help this person, this person, this person, actual people and then also how is this going to play on a worldview? So if you're trying to help a certain, maybe a foundation for a disease, for instance, and you have that disease or you're close to that disease in your life, you probably know people that got you passionate about wanting to help that cause, and then you probably you can look at what are the organizations I can help, or what kind of groups can I get involved with. So whatever it is, in whatever wherever you're at, whatever you're trying to overcome, you could keep piling on, who is this going to help beyond myself, and that'll help move things forward as well. So shoot it back over to you, Rob.
As you're saying that as far as who you're going to help, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself because, like with these real talk, it's real talk, and as I'm here going through it, and I was just thinking about even my story, how much I need to even go back and elaborate on my story, and if any one of you guys watching this, and you can just go ahead and you can take a look at my website, which is my blog, and you can take a look at my story before I actually go and really add what my story is about. So it's at shepherdfit.info. And the reason why we're going to use this as also some form of training, and you will understand where we're going with it, because I think I'm going to catch Justin also off guard, because I kind of want him to also tell his story. And his story is going to be pretty much what it's going to go on paper. And I'm also going to discuss my story because I'm going to actually go in and actually add what my real story is. And the reason why I said that, you will, when you read someone's about me on their website, I found myself even the other day, I read someone about me and I literally went ahead and added to my phone screen how powerful their story were. And as I can recall, they talked about their life story, like where they have been and the challenges they have been through, how they overcome obesity, why they decide to be a health coach. And that's more powerful to read because people can relate to you than if you're reading something where it's saying, like I discussed before, it's just talking so much more on a professional level. So before I get into my story, which I want to also use this as a training because I think you will kind of relate more as to why I think it's so powerful and how impactful your story can be. And we can't be shy. Don't be afraid to tell your story, whether it's I know within us we may feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want people to know where I came from, but it's okay because there's others that's in our position right now today. Use for example, uh, not to go in that subject, but just talk. Let's just kind of look at Robin Williams. I mean, funny guy, an awesome comedian. I mean, you look at him and the screen, and you're just amazed by him. I love his movie, Miss Dollfire. I mean, it's awesome. But here you go within him. He had a story that never came out, never showed aside until now he is deceased. God bless his soul. But there's something deeper there than none of us knew. And to even top that off, he had a wife, he had a family, and no one knew where he's been, what he's going through. So he has a deeper story than actually what actually on his bio. You know what I mean? So those are just kind of just some examples I want to kind of use there. So now I'm gonna go back to Justin, and then after that I want to kind of tell you my story, and you can listen to what I have to say, and then go back and look at your story and said, okay, am I really being true to the universe? Am I really being true to my audience? Am I putting on a facade that is not true? Why are they not relating to me? Because not many can relate to sometimes what we're saying. And I find even sometimes I do a radio show, and the radio person will say, I love the way you actually deliver the message, because whenever you get a doctor or someone with a PhD or a doctorate degree or such and such, they're so delivered so like in a different way that many cannot relate because of the type of words they're using, and they're not coming down to a level where it's understandable for the average individual. But they like to deliver because it's more real, and it's more not coming from a book, it's more wisdom and more life experience. So that's why you want to be you want to look at your story and understand how impactful your story can be. So back to you, Justin.
Yeah, those are good points, and I think I'm gonna roll with that as well. Like, I want to share different elements of my story and some of the differences between things I was doing initially with trying to fit into a niche and saying, what do people really want to hear me say versus what's true to me and what can I, a lot of times what you think you should say a lot of times is not what people are actually going to relate with. People are going to relate with things that they don't necessarily hear a lot, or something that's so unique to you. And there's this idea of like the only factor, right? So I mean, you can think logically that your knowledge or your experience and your journey is what people will naturally gravitate towards. But there's also this, what's different about your story is the specifics, where you're not trying to cater to what you think your niche is going to want to hear from you, and what you think they need to hear. So part of my story, I want to stick to one story, because I feel like you have, obviously we're human beings, we have life experiences, we have many different, smaller stories, and ultimately it's up to us to craft it in the way that we want. So whether that's crafting it to in different situations with different people, but overall, staying true to your overall message of what you're about. So for me, that a lot of that is going through a huge change in my life, where I went from basically just going out drinking and partying. That's all I cared about. Like girls was like the weekend. That's all I cared about, that stuff. And that was like during college, and even a little after college. And then going through a whole change of finding God, and going to a nutrition school that was like it was not so much a nutrition school as a mind-opening experience, where I just started to become an independent thinker again for the first time in like years, maybe a decade or something, for real. And that's a significant amount of time when you're young. And um, basically, a lot of what happened was I realized that a lot of what is true to me, and what I'm naturally gifted at, and the things that what I'm meant to do in this world, are things that a lot of people would tell me, no, like don't do that, or here's what you're supposed to be in life, kid, go do this. And I just sort of was a person that let things happen. That's all I ever knew. I just listened to people all the time. I listened to the system you're supposed to be in. I listened to, get this knowledge and you'll be set for life, and all kinds of stuff like that. I'm so I don't think rebellious. I guess I'm a little rebellious, but it's more like an innovative type of thing. So I'm such a creator that now I when I speak to people and they have the same type of hangups, that they are people who are very creative in their own right, and they can't really fit into a system of like do things this way. I can relate to them, and I can share what I've been through, and how I can take something where I've gone through the education system in college, master's degree, all that stuff, and I could say that's not the end all be all like so many people think it is. Just like Rob was saying, having a PhD doesn't mean you're the right person that's gonna be an expert to help someone, right? You got a degree. It's obviously part of what helps identify someone as an expert, where you can trust them a little bit more, but ultimately, you know, that doesn't define somebody, right? So with that said, what I do a lot of, like what Rob, does a lot of, is helping people that have all the right intentions, but we just haven't been taught very basic skills like marketing, right? Basic skills like, how do I get out of the sort of like the rat race, or it's more like the matrix of life, and how do I just become an independent thinker again, and like just how can I make my own decisions and make my own judgments about things. And it's really interesting because I have conversations all the time now where I'm very, very you have to be very careful about where you spend your time and who the people you spend your time with are. And a lot of times I go out and venture off into different groups of friends, hang out with new people, and a lot of times people are so, I can notice it now, where people are so, their mindset's so tied to a certain path of life that was basically given to them, or saying like, look, you go to school, you get a degree, and that's how you become an expert at something. And people actually like think that makes you an expert by getting a degree, and that's what you work in, even if you're just working for somebody. I don't mean to devalue education or anything like that, but it's definitely like a mindset thing where you think that having a certain qualification makes you someone who can help people, where it's obvious like all the biggest innovative ideas and new breakthroughs in science and nutrition and all different places, there's always been someone who's like went against the norm, and that's become the norm in the next generation. So um, kind of getting passionate a little bit, but that's what I think this is all about. Is you have to embrace what's true to you. And obviously, like, I'm passionate about what I'm talking about right now because I've gone through the whole experience of my life. And that's why when someone asked, like the other day, they're like, how did you really become someone who has like leadership qualities like you do? I can tell them my story honestly and say, this is what it means to me, and I don't have to think about how I'm crafting a story in my head about what do they want to hear. I can be honest and say, this is what uniquely brought me to where I'm at, rather than any sort of mishmash or preconceived notions of what is a leader, for instance, right? So, yeah, with that said, Rob, I'd love to hear some of your takes on that as well.
That's so true. And I mean that's a great point of view because sometimes we just get so caught up into the way of we think what our qualifications are is what's going to make us. And that's, I mean, some folks it works for them and some folks it don't work for them. But as far as just to focus on, make sure that you're true, as Justin said, and make sure that your story, write your story. I mean, you don't have to be an author, you don't have to be a writer, you don't have to be a storyteller. Your story is your story, and that's what people buy. People buy you. People are relating to you. And I'll share my story, and I've never done this I mean, I've never done this publicly before. I've never even recorded, but I'll just share my story as far as my background and where I'm from and how my story may can impact someone else and may can change some lives along the way. But growing up, I came from Jamaica, and I was raised in Jamaica, where, as most of us know, it may look great because it said, it's Jamaica no problem, man, but there's a whole bunch of problems. It's a great country, but I guess it's a way of making yourself feel good and says Jamaica no problem. But I mean, many times, the young growing up, we didn't know where our next meal coming from. Used to actually go in the woods and go search for food and come home and, sometimes even kill a little bird just to have a meal. Sometimes we'll cook the rice, don't know where the meat's coming from. We'll eat rice and butter. So it was a very poor life, and it's actually something that have me once I came to America, I knew that I was not going back, and I wanted to change my life and also impact the lives of others. And I was always a go-getter, no matter what. I was never a person to go on the street and beg. I was never a person to go and rob and steal. I just always, even though I was poor, broke, had no money, go to school sometimes with one pair of shoes that I wear to school was the same pair of shoes I wear to church. And if you don't have if you have the one pair of shoes, you walk barefoot. So if you to kind of elaborate on that, it's wear no shoes, and you're walking on the street with pretty much no shoes whatsoever. And just imagine that today you're just walking with no shoes anywhere you're going, no matter what, rocks, you're playing soccer with no shoes. You have one pair, and you can't damage it because that's the same pair you're wearing to school. I go out, I will go in the woods, I search, for food. I'll find fruits, vegetables. Sometimes I pick mangoes, nesberry, and I come down, I sell some of it. I eat that for lunch. I used to figure out a way out to go and hustle money by getting on a reggae contest, sing, make a couple dollars, go split it, give my grandmother most of it that she can make some food. And to think back of my life story and to seeing where I'm at today, even though I've never would ever felt that I'm better than anyone, because I'm always going to go back to where I've been, no matter what it is within my mind. But that is, I physically going back there, because where I've been and where you have been actually make who you are today. Because now, back then, selling figurines, selling fruit, selling vegetables, selling whatever you can to make ends meet, it's actually what builds the entrepreneurship within me today. Now, once I came to America, I realized that after living in the, I'll just say the ghetto. I'm not going to call it the hood because the hood sounds too good. I'm going to say the ghetto, where It's, different crimes are going on, people getting killed, but know how to separate myself from that, that I've never been arrested, never been in any form of trouble, because the way how I was raised, it was more of a strict way of life than the norm. And that's actually helped me to make who I am today. But I use that story to show you that no matter where we're from, no matter where we have been, we can still come out to be great. And sometimes it's we may feel within us that we can't turn our life around because the struggle is always going to be there. But it's all a mindset thing. Because once I touched down I would never forget, New York City, thanks to my mom that actually filed for us and got us to America. I remember watching Dynasty and Falcon Quest, and I was always thinking that I can't wait to get to America, because once I land at the airport, there's going to be a limousine picking me up, and there's going to be money laying on the airport floor that I can pick up, and I'm going to be rich. That was my mindset, because that's what the media actually made it seems like. But then I realized that once you get here, it's hard work, and you have to dedicate yourself to wherever you want to go. Now, I was strongly believing to getting as many degrees as I can to get where I need to go within life. But then I realized that that's not true. So I took a different route and went to school, but I figured that, I can make things happen by utilizing my wisdom and utilizing the talent from my background back home and get to places within America. So it's one of those things where you know what you want, you know where you want to go, and you never want to go back to where you have been. But within your mind, you always want to remember it, because it builds you stronger, and it also helps you with your why, which has helped me with my why tremendously. Because now I utilize who I was then to inspire someone else to grow within life, and to let you understand that you may see me being me now, but you don't know where I've came from. And that also goes for you as an individual. So many may see you who you are today, but don't know where you have been. So they see you as, well, things are given to you, but no one knows that you're raised without a father. Your dad wasn't there fully through your time of growing up. So you had to figure out how things gonna happen, and your mom is the only one that's bringing you through. So that's how impactful your story can be when you're writing your story. So to kind of close off on this message, because I don't want to elaborate too long, because sometimes it can get emotional. But when you're writing, and I want you to have a takeaway from this, think about your about me when you're writing it, whether it's for your profile, whether it's for your blog, whether it's for your Facebook page, whatever it is. Because as I said, if you go and read mine now, I am going to make some changes to it, because you need to be true, because your story going to impact someone and change someone's life. And like I said before that, I read some people about me when I read it, and it's just like, wow, I need to save it, because it touches me, because I could relate and feel with that individual has been. And that's what you want to, when someone read your about me or read your story, is relate to you and said, okay, great, you know what, I want to connect with Justin, because I was that individual that was being pushed to go to school, pushed to get that degree, pushed to go here, pushed to go there. But no one never said, hey, you know what, there's a different life out there, that you need to go this route, until when you realize it and you make those changes. Back to you, Justin.
Yeah, I love that, Rob. That was pretty profound, man. I appreciate you sharing that as well, because that's the powerful stuff. And I think we have a tendency to like diminish our own stories, especially when we look
Mm-hmm.
up to people. We look up to the whoever's in our industry, or whoever it is in our life, they seem so they've done so much, or they've reached some level that we're just like, wow. And um, if you're exposing yourself to a lot of different people, and trying to find different role models, or just find information, be inspired by people, you hear a lot of stories. And if you're hearing a lot of stories, just remember, like, I feel like a lot of times a story can get numb in your mind. Like you just hear a story and you're like, this person went from poverty to being a huge social influence, impacting the world, and a lot of times you're just like, okay, yeah, okay, okay, but like think like stop and think sometimes. It's just like they really went from like being homeless. Like that's just an example. Like someone I really really respect and love for their organization and what they've done kind of in my life is like the Danny Johnson, Hans Johnson, and like that's Danny Johnson's story is like she went from poverty to being a huge influence and being a speaker and all over the world now. And it's hard, it's easy to forget sometimes that that's real. Like that person really was someone that you could have walked by in the street today that was homeless, and that person had it within them to say at that point in their life to say, this is not who I am. This is I'm meant for way bigger things, and to really take it from there to all the way where they're at now. And it's never ending, right? They're still on a journey themselves, and that's why I say that is like you're overcoming things right now. So it's so important to identify things. So I want to transition a little bit into some takeaways. We should the rest of the call, next 10 minutes or so, we're gonna focus on some takeaways for you guys. And what I want to focus on is like key points on how to not just mold your story, but kind of identify, ask the right questions. And I talk so much about this, but it's so important. If you can ask the right questions about what is it about my story that I'm tied to, or what is it about my story that is going to mean something? And I want to give an example before I really make this point. I think I'm going to make this point through an example. And the example I have is that an area that I just shared how I went through partying and chasing after girls in college, and I really lost. I'm very, my mind is sort of my strength. Going through strategy and very very logical mind, and I really lost a lot of that during that time in my life. And what I didn't realize then is that I've always had sort of this challenge with focus and being efficient in what I did. And um, I even I could even say I have ADHD, which is technically not really a diagnosis. It's more a list of symptoms, but it's real. So, but for a long time, I was such in a clouded state of mind that I didn't even recognize that. And coming to more of the present day, realizing that I've had that all my life. And what's happened is I've gone through challenges and I've knocked challenges out, and I've grown as a person and grown in knowledge and grown with where I want my career to be and my relationships and all kinds of things. But there's like this big elephant in the room of like focus. Like, how do I get to focus? And that's why it's so important where I'm talking about this now, but myself, I could say like I didn't see this huge challenge that was right in front of me my entire life because other issues got in the way, or I didn't identify the big issues. So ask yourself, what is it, not necessarily just in a personal growth sense, but what is your story about? Like, what's true about what you've overcome, but what's right in front of you? What's right in front of you where, a lot of times I'm even bringing this up is because your story is going to be so similar to other people's stories in a way that you might not be expecting, right? Because when I started getting in touch, and I speak to a lot of health coaches on a regular basis, and what you would think is, okay, health coaches, they're more nutritionally oriented, they're more like, natural remedies, essential oils, different topics that you, as a health coach, you become well versed in, at least on a you get a working knowledge of different areas, and you expect to have that kind of in common with other people, and you think their story might be that an essential oil blend really helped them in some way, right? Or they went on a certain type of meal plan, or they went vegan, or whatever it is, and that's what created a great transformation with them. But what happened in my case is that I realized that so many people are trying to start a business, right? Or just trying to do work, even if they're not in the business world, if they're just a health coach in a like a employee capacity, and what I notice is so many people have focus issues. They say I can't focus on what I'm doing, and it's not just an excuse. Some people just say it as an excuse, right? They're just like, oh, I have ADD, I can't focus, but and they just let themselves get distracted. But it can get a lot deeper than that. It can go into like the central nervous system. It can go into anxiety, and even like things like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia and stuff really relates to focus issues. It's things I never knew about, but these are things that a lot of people deal with, and and it obviously plays a big part in your life, but also like going forward into being an entrepreneur, it could be a huge thing. And I never expected that to be a common link that I'm now focused on it, starting to build that, where that's a huge area of my story that I just didn't identify that common thread at first. So there's a lot of ways that your story can sort of unfold, but it's just important to keep asking yourself questions about, where you're headed, what's going on with people around you, um, and whether it's in your business or your life. There's so much to be gained by just having an investigative mind, and just ask questions. Always consider things, and it can help you really define your own story, and then see where the common denominators are with other people that really could use, your help, even if you haven't really overcame, what you're going through. Like I said, you're on a part of your journey. You're not necessarily at the end of it, or you've totally, killed the challenge that you've had. But where are you? Sometimes you're side by side with someone that really could use someone who just understands what they're going through, right? So the people that you can help are the people like you, or the people that you're sort of targeting, or the people that you want to work with or help, or whatever it is in your life. So yeah, with that said, that's pretty much all I got tonight, Rob. I don't. I'm gonna. Probably got about 5 more minutes. So if you got anything else.
Yeah, just to, in closing, just that, sometimes the focus is whenever we're looking at our story, we can't worry about that, the fear of what others may think, the rejection of our story, because remember, your story is you, is what you've been through, is your experience, and who your story will fit and relate to it. So it's not going to fit for everyone, because the person that never been through a life experience that you have been through, like everything was always great for them. Like for instance, they never been through a struggle. Everything was given to them. Mom and dad gave them everything. Grandma left them with a car. Grandma left them with thousands of dollars in the bank. So they're not going to be able to relate to your story. So we can't write our story for everyone, and our story is not going to fit everyone. It's going to fit the person that's been through that struggle. And as you know, that's going to be a huge percentage, because it's only, what is it, 97%? There's only 3% of entrepreneurs out there. So the other 97% of people out there that's looking to get places within their life, your story will fit. So worry about that 97%. The other 3 or 4%, they may read it and says, oh, you know what? Thank God I never have to go through that, because my mom set up everything for me, and that's it. But you had 97 or 96% out there that's going to relate to your story. So make your story be you, and be true to what your story is. And that's all I got, Justin, man.
Yeah, and that's cool. I actually have something to add to that as well. Is that it's very wise to actually disqualify people as well in your story, because you could be talking to a certain group of people, right? And so in Rob's story, he's talking about how he's trying to make a better life for himself and his family, right? So he can't, obviously relate to people who sort of grew up in money. But I think it can go further than that too, because if he's focusing on a certain topic within that group of people, or that people that can relate to that lifestyle growing up, or different hardships growing up, then you can even disqualify people beyond that. So what I'm saying is that it might not necessarily be 97%, right? Rob's saying that in a general sense, but like you could be you can be more specific with who you're targeting. For instance, if I'm targeting people that are starting businesses that need more focus and efficiency, then as an example, then I'm going to have a subset of people within that that I'm going to be targeting, because I'm not going to target just anybody like that, right? Because if who do I want to work with? You know, there's tons of questions. Who do I want to work with? Who, what kind of, you know, what kind of person do I want to work with as far as personality? You know, what's their personality like? What are they willing to do? How bad do they want to succeed in their business? So all the kinds of things that qualify people. So you can actually disqualify people as well by understanding a personality trait that someone might have that you don't want to work with. So that's really important, because you can really hone in on people, because as you create a group or a community, it's so important that the cohesion is there as well, because you don't want to have people come in that are sort of identify with what you're talking about, but kind of don't. So then there's going to be like a disconnect, right? So, you know, that's a little. I got a little deeper with that, but I think that's important, because your story, you can get really specific, and you could really speak very specifically to certain people so that they're so locked in to what you're talking about, and they understand it. They understand the life story. They understand, you know, whether it has to do with business or not. You know, it can really relate to people versus kind of relate to people and get more people. You can create a stronger community that's tighter, and build from that. And that goes with just relationships in your life as well. If you have certain challenge that you have in common with someone, something you're working yourself through, or something you've been through that they are starting to, you know, take on as a challenge in their life, you know, the more specific you can get with people that are just like you, or people that you can really relate to, is so important as well, for sure.
And you know, and it should make sure that you tap into your emotions. Don't be afraid to tap into your emotions, because your story won't resonate with others if it's void of emotions, as discovered when writing your first draft of your story, so that you take your you take your pen and pad and you write down some of the key feelings that you has within you, and then take those to the paper and take it out to the universe. Another couple of points, list the turning points. Make sure you list the turning points of your story. Don't just write your story and then leave someone there to say, okay, so when did things get great? If you notice, when I talk about my story, I talked about being in Jamaica, and I talked about my turning points when I came to America, and now it's time to make things happen because I see the opportunity. So, people often make the mistakes of, starting with their earliest childhood memories and moving through their story and chronologically, but then come to find out, it's like, okay, so where's your turning point? Try to write down everything that you're going to talk about, and just sit down and just start jotting things down. I remember when, I remember when, I remember when, and just jot those things down, and then just build your story around it, because your story is what's going to sell. It's not because you got to remember, there's hundreds of health coaches out there, there's hundreds of doctors, there's hundreds of people in the medical profession, there's others out there. So how your story going to resonate? I'll give you another example, perfect example. I actually was looking the other day to talk with a lawyer about a situation, and I went straight to his website, and guess what I read? His story was like awesome. Right away, I was like, oh, I can resonate with his story. He's hired. Boom. So that's just to show you how different it is when I said the story. I mean, and I give you another, here it is. This is crazy. He was actually more expensive than the one that was cheaper. But guess why I went with the one that was more expensive? His story. So you see what I'm saying, how powerful it's story. And that's what we turned to him, and he says to us, oh, how did you know all this? I said, we looked up your story. And he was like, oh my goodness, this is so great. And he was more, but we hired him because of his story. All right, so awesome point. So I just want to close off with that, and get out there and get your story done, make it happen.
Oh yeah, because, you know, in the same light, you know, don't ever diminish your story. Realize that you can be on the same path as someone that you look up to, someone that has done huge things, because they most likely were at a similar spot, and you can look at a great story and you could say, wow, but like, your story is in the making, and just embrace it. And that's a great point Rob made. You know, write down everything. Just always investigate things. Always don't think you're just going to remember every part of, you know, of your journey along the way. So many things have happened, obviously. So, you know, write everything down. This is what we talk about with vision. We talk about life purpose. Like, the more you can write down, the more you can start to mold things together and pick out the turning points, like Rob says, or pick out the main things that you overcame, or the things that the biggest struggles, that you had to take on and things like that. So awesome, awesome hangout, and we do these every Tuesday nights, and we'll be back for another one next week, the 19th of August at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as usual. We got Rob Shepard. Rob, how do people find you for people who want to connect with you?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me at www.facebook.com/Rob Shepard 72. And you also can catch me if you want to get some good health tips. You can find me at Shepherd Fit on Facebook and shepherdfit.info, and it's www.shepherd, as in the Bible, SHEPHERDFIT.info. I like to spell it because sometimes we'll spell it with an ARD, and I like to repeat in the Bible because it's shepherd in the Bible. All right?
All
Okay,
right,
all right.
Rob. All right, awesome. So obviously I'm Justin Messina, and you can reach me on Facebook, facebook.com/The Real Messina, social media at JMessLife, and my website is justin-messina.com, which going through a little bit of a change right now, but also find me at the visionfitmovement.com, which is our vision that we're creating, Rob and I, as well as many others, so that people can take their vision and really bring it out. So much of what we talk about on these hangouts, and we touch on the business, we touch on the lifestyle, but it's huge when you can take something you love and make it something, and you can make your own position, you make your own lifestyle. Like Rob says, lifestyle that by design. I like to say accelerate your lifestyle. It's all good stuff. So I'll be back next week, and I will see you later. Signing off on behalf of Rob and I, Live Vision Fit. We're out.
Boom.